Officer, he dumped all that trash on my property and I want him arrested.
Before you arrest anyone, you might want to watch what my security camera recorded.
I thought Karen had finally learned her lesson after the towing incident, and for a blissful week, I was able to mow the grass around my driveway without her SUV getting in the way. My driveway remained Karen-free. No smug SUVs blocking the way, no excuses about cupcake emergencies, just peace and quiet. But Karen being Karen wasn't going to let me win without one last act of petty revenge. One morning as I was taking out the trash, I noticed something odd near the end of my driveway, a fresh pile of garbage. Not my garbage, mind you, Karen's garbage. There were at least 3 overflowing bags, along with a broken chair and what looked suspiciously like an old cat tree. The cherry on top? A handwritten sign taped to one of the bags that said, "If you don't like sharing, here's all your space back." Oh, Karen. Clearly this was her way of making some kind of statement, but all she accomplished was proving that she had the maturity of a wet paper bag. I snapped a few pictures because, at this point, documenting Karen's antics had become a hobby, and dragged the bags back across the street to her curb. That should have been the end of it. Should have. Later that afternoon, I heard a knock at my door. Standing there was a police officer, with Karen lurking dramatically behind him, arms crossed and smirking, like she had just outmaneuvered me in a chess match. "Good afternoon," the officer said politely. "Your neighbor here claims you've been harassing her and dumping trash on her property." Karen piped up, her voice dripping with fake concern. "I just don't feel safe anymore. He's been so aggressive ever since I parked in his driveway. I don't know what to do." She even threw in a sniffle for good measure. Luckily, I was ready for this nonsense. I smiled at the officer and said, "I'm so glad you're here. Let me show you something." I pulled out my phone and opened my gallery, which was basically a Karen Chronicles highlight reel at this point. I showed him the pictures of her car parked in my driveway, the timestamps proving how often it happened, and the video from my security camera of her dumping the trash. Karen's face went from smug to panicked in record time. I was just trying to make a point," she stammered. "He's been so rude to me." The officer held up a hand. "Ma'am, I see no evidence of harassment here, but dumping trash on someone else's property? That's illegal." He turned to me. "Would you like to press charges for trespassing and illegal dumping?" Karen's jaw dropped. "You can't be serious. I didn't mean any harm." "Karen," I said, doing my best to keep a straight face, "I think the officer just wants to make sure we're both following the law. Isn't that what you wanted?" She sputtered some unintelligible excuse, but the officer wasn't having it. He told her to clean up her trash immediately and warned her that if she ever trespassed on my property again, she'd be facing a fine or worse. After the officer left, Karen sulked back to her house, but not before shooting me one last death glare. I gave her a cheerful wave and said, "Thanks for stopping by." That was the last time Karen tried anything directly. Oh, she still gave me the occasional dirty look, and I'd sometimes catch her muttering to herself when she walked by my house, but her days of parking in my driveway and dumping trash were over. As a bonus, word of Karen's antics spread through the neighborhood like wildfire. The other neighbors, who had already been fed up with her entitled behavior, took it as a green light to start pushing back. The couple next door stopped letting her dog roam onto their lawn. Another neighbor told me they'd started keeping their trash bins locked because Karen had been using them for her overflow garbage. It was like the entire street had finally decided they'd had enough. Karen, it seemed, had officially lost her queen bee status. One day, a few weeks after the incident, I noticed a moving truck parked in front of Karen's house. At first, I thought she was just doing some redecorating, but no, she was moving out. Apparently, dealing with an entire neighborhood of people who wouldn't put up with her nonsense anymore was too much for her to handle. As the truck pulled away, I couldn't resist one last jab. I grabbed a piece of chalk and wrote on the end of my driveway, "Vacancy, no Karen allowed." It wasn't my finest piece of art, but it made me and the neighbors laugh, and honestly, that's what mattered. If this experience taught me anything, it's that dealing with entitled people like Karen requires a mix of patience, persistence, and a willingness to stand your ground. Oh, and maybe a security camera or two. Now, whenever I pull into my blessedly Karen-free driveway, I smile and think, if anyone else tries this, I'm ready. Because let's be real, where there's one Karen, there's bound to be another. Do you think Karen got what she deserved? Comment justice below, Share this story with someone who's dealt with an entitled neighbor, and follow for more unbelievable neighborhood stories.